Friday, hi there. Hope everybody's good. Hope you're all ready to get blazed up at 4:20, guys. Even though it is now 4:21, actually. Jeez, I nearly got deafened there by that one. I see there's a few heads out there. We've Mustawes, Tom Hennessy. What's happening, guys? Hype TCK, Kevin Griffin, Daglon is Eamon Dom. Kieran C, Podge, what's happening? Pad Whelan as well. Pad Whelan getting a super chat in there. He says a microphone. Maybe that was actually sending in an emoji of a microphone. It just came up on my side here as text. Tom Hennessy is also saying here, avoid mainstream media, especially during 420. Guys, at 420, there's only one place to be. That's a 420 news. Like, come on, guys. If you don't know it now, you know, but you're all here. You all know it, guys. You're all in the know. You're well-educated people out there. But I'll make sure I put this thing on silent, actually. So, guys, welcome along to 420 News. Yeah, as I say, sorry, I'm just getting an issue here about a dropped frame, but hopefully I'm coming through loud and clear to everybody out there, and I'm not getting any dropped frames. Just jump up my audio there as well for you guys so you can hear me a bit more loud and clear. So guys, today's 420 News, as always, has been sponsored by R420 Supplies, guys, r420.ie, for all your cannabis accessory needs. They got streetwear, they got rolling trays, they got grinders, pipes, bongs, everything you can think about, they have it. And if they don't have it, I'm sure they'll go above and beyond to get you what you need. So again, guys, go show them some support. If you're in the area of Port Arlington, then swing by the store. The doors are now open, guys, so get on in there and check it out. I'm certainly excited to get up there and visit sometime soon. And I will do a little live video from up there as well, guys. So check them out, r420.ie, and they're in Port Arlington too. So thanks again to those guys for supporting the show. Also, guys, again, just to remind you, I'm going to move these from behind me. Kind of annoying me. Just to remind you guys, I got day 21 of the 30-day challenge, running 420 kilometers over 30 days in the month of May. So 14 kilometers a day we're going to do, and at the end of the 30 days we're going to have 420 kilometers complete. So 9 more days to go. Well, I still have to do today. So yeah, 9 more days to go. Looking forward to getting this one done. I've constantly said to myself, I'm going to get up early in the morning and I'm going to do it in the morning. And I'm constantly finding it hard to get to bed at night time because I'm just constantly clicking away on this bloody thing, always doing something or other. So I haven't been getting up for my early morning runs as I've been intending, but I've been certainly getting out there and getting the 14 kilometers done every day. As I said, the legs were feeling a bit weak at the beginning, but now it's only my knees that are feeling it, but I'm sure that'll go away once I get a couple of days of rest after all of this. Thanks again to everybody who has donated to that campaign so far. We're raising money for the Laura Lynn Children's Hospice, which is children's hospice here in Ireland, provides some much needed for the need for access to medical cannabis, not just for the adults out there, for also for the children too who need access to it. There's currently, we have a number of kids who've been, very much at the forefront of the conversation around medical cannabis. Vera Toomey's daughter Ava, and before that then as well, I suppose a name that kind of went quiet a bit was Tristan Ford. Those were 2 Cork kids as well. So again, thanks everybody for donating, and continue to hit that like and share button out there, guys. Help get this message spread nice, far and wide. Get it outside of the echo chambers if we can. Yeah, again, I'm let me know there in the comments, guys, if I'm coming through loud and clear or if you're getting loads of lags. I'm going to quickly pack up a bowl there so I can blaze one up with you before we actually get stuck into the main body of the news today. Don't have a whole lot of news actually to get through for you today. Thank God, I suppose, really, because a bulk of the news all along has been made up of Garda raids. So thankfully there's not as many Garda raids to be reporting on. But that's not to say that they're not happening out there. It just means that they're not reporting on them. The Garda press office isn't releasing the information to the journalists, maybe because they're getting a bit of kickback for it. Do you know what I mean? That recent €4 fucking case, like. So maybe there's a bit of kickback there, so they'll be a bit slower to report on some of the smaller fines that they're having, and they're going to hold back until they get some some big cases. Who knows? But nonetheless, we do have some news to get through for you anyway, guys. So sit back, relax, and blaze on up. Take part in the old civil disobedience protest here on 420 News. Ooh, that was nice, tasty. Hope you're all doing good out there, guys. I see a few more people after joining into the show as well. Daily Talker, what's happening? Daily Talker, ONF as well. What's going on, Owen? Who else is out there? We've Peter. What's happening, Peter? We've Mick. Casadas Dragas. What's going on? He says blazing one for all the homies in the hot box. Excellent. I love it. Alter Ego is out there as well. What's happening, Alter Ego? Again, guys, nice one, everybody, for tuning in. Not a whole lot of news, but we'll get through it anyway there in a couple of seconds. Tom Hennessy's saying here, it's a pity you can't buy the legal highs from health shops anymore. We could have used them legal highs as an experiment to compare the illegal highs from drugs. Yeah, interesting. Well, we did have that experiment. It was already out there, and kind of what we found out is these legal highs were a lot worse than the illegal highs, to be fair. So we've got that cannabis as being contaminated with it, and that's a lot worse for the consumers. So yeah, I think the evidence is out in that one, really, like, or the jury's out in that one, like that. Yeah, certainly the legal highs were a lot worse than some of the illegal ones at the time. Other comments out there as well. Mustawa is there saying a couple of minor lags here and there. All right, hopefully that doesn't progress. We're wired right up to the box anyway, like, so there shouldn't be any issues. Not relying on the wireless anymore, lads. Are coming up in the world, like, getting more technological. What's happening, Wooly? What's going on, man? See Wooly just after now, and we'll get back to the comments there in a couple of minutes. Let's get stuck into this news that I have lined up here for you. Because the first bit of news, really, it's not as much news as more just pointing out something that we've touched on the show before, and again, maybe homing in or repeating, you know, what Professor Carl Hart raised awareness of, you know, is that the people, and what we should be doing as campaigners is raising awareness as to how people like Heather Humphreys, who's now stepping in for the Minister for Justice, what's her name? Something McEntee, Helen McEntee. So she's stepping in now for Helen McEntee. Helen McEntee's out on maternity leave. She's after giving birth to a son who, in about 8 years' time, will be old enough to start running drugs on the streets of Ireland. Who knows, maybe in another couple of years, if we continue this failed prohibition, you know, that as she's stepping in now for Helen McEntee, you know, she's coming out and kind of taking advantage of this fucking prohibition. You know, she's benefiting from this prohibition, and how she's doing it is in the way in which I've talked about here on the show numerous times. You know, she uses nice one, Irish, there as well, for hosting, legend. But she's using these artificial numbers, you know, and I'll show you what I mean by that, you know. And she has a tweet that came out here. This was a tweet from last week, but it only came to my attention yesterday. But it's on Garda Síochána's National Drugs and Organised Crime Bureau has done exceptional work this year. The total value of drugs seized for the first 4 months of 2021 is up 28.2 million from 5.7 million from the same period last year, an increase of almost 400%. She's putting this out as like a well done, lads. This is great. Like, this is a job well done. Like, you know, we're doing great here. What we're doing, like, but like in a 1 year period, there's been a 400% increase in the amount of drugs that have been picked up. But that's not necessarily saying that they're stopping more drugs from getting to the streets, because there's no drought going on out there. Everybody is able to get their hands on whatever drugs they're looking for. The bloody postman is bringing it to people's doors for them, like, in fairness. Like, this isn't anything at all to celebrate. This is actually a reflection of their failure. This is a failure of the prohibition of drugs, that year in, year out, there's an ever-increasing amount of drugs being supplied, illegal, unregulated, adulterated drugs to the drug consumers out there. So there's a massive population of Ireland that are being left unprotected by the government, because they're failing. You know, all of these drugs that they're detecting, you know, it's a small amount of the actual drugs that are coming into the country. You know, they estimate that maybe like 5 to 10% of the drugs they can actually prevent. You know, when you look at this, again, it's maybe 10%, you know, in a 3 or 4 month period. That's saying like that there's millions upon millions of euros of drugs still getting onto the streets of Ireland, being sold, and propping up the organised crime gangs who are doing so much damage out there in Irish society. Again, recruiting young kids into their trade, and shooting, abusing, chopping them bloody up, and the whole lot. Like, it's getting extreme out there. And along comes Heather Humphreys, and she's like, "Oh yeah, look at us! Look, we seized more drugs. Like, isn't this great? Like, isn't this?" No, it's not, Heather. Like, you're failing the people. Like, that this is a massive reflection of the failures of the war on drugs, of this prohibition of drugs. You cannot prevent drugs getting to the streets of the drug users. So therefore, the best thing that the government can do is step in and really prevent the harms towards drug users by putting in place regulations that will ensure the quality of the supply of drugs to the drug users. Because otherwise they're unprotected. They're getting their drugs from organised crime gangs who are using kids to run drugs on the streets of Ireland, when we could just come along and be adults, be sensible adults, and say, hey, this isn't working, this approach isn't working. We've tried it now for 40, 50 years and it's a major failure. Let's try regulation. Let's actually try to take a compassionate approach to these people in our society, like we do to people who drink alcohol and tobacco. You know, these are drugs, again, very much they do harm in our society, but we regulate them, we tolerate them, because it's only a small proportion of our society who develop problems as a result of the drugs. Obviously, with tobacco, look, this shit kills you slowly, but what I'm talking about when can use it responsibly is as alcohol. There's a portion of our society who can use alcohol and they'll have no problems with it, and there's a small percent who'll get addicted. There's a bit of a bigger percent who'll just get drunk and be stupid. But again, you look at cannabis and the harms that come from it. By and large, most of the harms that come from it come from the black market. They talk about high THC. High THC, well, I've no idea as to the level of THC that's currently in my cannabis. Like, so how can I protect myself as a consumer? The government are failing me. That this is just it's ridiculous. But she goes on, she has another tweet then that adds in, you know, tackling organised crime is a key priority for the government, and the vital work by at Garda Info is hugely welcomed. And then she goes on to read more here. But tackling organised crime, but come here, in fairness, like, are ye not the mother of organised crime? Like, did ye not give birth to it in a sense? Like, when you put the prohibition of drugs in place, like, ye gave birth to a monster. Like, literally, like, the organised crime gangs out there, over 40% of the income that they rely on, like 40% of their trade is drugs. Like, and that's not legal drugs. Like, organised crime gangs don't be running pubs, like, you know, unless they're using it to launder money that they make from the illegal sale of drugs. So meanwhile, so what we're actually saying there is, actually, if you regulate drugs, the organised crime gangs go away onto something else. You know, maybe they might set up a business to launder their money, but that's something for the revenue or somebody else to chase up then afterwards. Like, but again, these revenue, the Gardaí, they'll be a lot more freer to target that kind of activity then afterwards, you know, once you've regulation in place, because they're not wasting so much time on people like myself, who simply, people in 2019 got caught for personal possession of drugs, while there was only like 6,000 or 7,000 got caught for dealing, like quite a small amount. So again, by and large, it's a lot of it is people who get caught for personal use of drugs. Why is the government getting involved in our personal affairs? Where is our respect of privacy and bodily integrity? Why should the government care that I'm consuming cannabis, or that I'm consuming, you know, 10 cans of Coke a day? Like, really, like, well, why does the government have a say in either of those things? Like, if they believe both of them to be harmful to my health, like, and they do, they talk about it, you know, consume, what do they say, like, through their programs of education, or about treat-wise, isn't that the saying, be treat-wise? Can't we put the same education out about cannabis, like, you know, but be cannabis-wise, like, know your dose, like, Go to a reputable retailer. Like, don't buy from the street. Grow your own if you'd like, but know X, Y, and Z before you do it. Like, and use the government state sponsored testing facilities in order to get cannabinoid tests and blah 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 tests. You know, to protect yourself as a consumer. These are the ways in which we can really reduce harms, as opposed to like what they're doing is creating fucking monsters out there with their silly prohibition. So Heather Humphreys, she's a big fat benefactor. That's no attack on her bodily figure. Like, you know, she's just a big benefactor from, like, and I don't think she's a fat lady either. But she's a big benefactor from this war on drugs and the way in which she's going about her tweeting. You know, she's patting herself in the back, like massaging the ego and massaging this idea that, like, oh, we're winning, like, we're doing a great job. But we all know they're not. Like, that these drugs are still getting to the streets. There's still kids out there selling this shit, like. So while she comes along with her, you know, shitless, man, they're out there doing hundreds of checkpoints around the country like they've never done before. No wonder they're catching more drugs. Like, in fair deliveries that are they're intercepting, you know, they're catching like 8 and 12,000s of drugs. But then they go on in the article, say, well, the drugs were destined for Cork, Limerick, Galway, Tipperary, Clare, fucking, you know, Mayo, like 12 or 13 different counties, meaning, like, you know, that 8 to 12,000 euro of cannabis that they seized, it was actually made up of a lot of small personal packages that they're intercepting. Again, the government interfering with my or your ability to make a decision as to what we consume and how we control or fight for this shit and take it back. Because, you know, otherwise we're going to see more and more of this kind of shit. You know, the Gardaí out there, again, more benefactors here from their silly war on drugs, because they're propping up the numbers here. This was from an operation above on the border between Ireland and Northern Ireland, the Republic of Northern Ireland, where they intercepted a car and the driver tested positive for cannabis, and then they searched the car and found some cannabis on it. Again, you know what I mean? This guy is going to be brought before the courts. He's going to be adding to the statistics out there. But was he actually impaired? Was he a guy who literally got into his car, across the border, or maybe there was a better deal across the border on buying cannabis, and he came back across the border? Of course the guy's going to test for fucking positive for cannabis. He might have been smoking it the night before. He might have had a joint that morning with his coffee in our Gardaí's time. Because are they actually protecting anybody from anything here? Is there any real inherent danger here in this situation where this individual, as I say, you know, he tested positive, like, but was he impaired? We've had Gardaí go on the records. They're out there. There's a video out there. We get you. So, like, this is just an outright war on us. Like, they're going to get you, like, you know, because, like, when it comes to alcohol, you know, they give you education. They tell you, you know your limit. You know, 1 pint means, you know, 2 units. And if you have 2 units, that means an hour from driving. Do you know, I don't take me on those. That's numbers I'm pulling out my backside. But they give you this kind of information. But when it comes to cannabis, it's like, no. Don't drive. And if you smoke it, we're going to catch you with it. You better not drive for about 2 weeks after it. Like, come on, in fairness. Like, we need to sort this shit out, because they're straight up just going after us. They're using this, the way in which cannabis is metabolized in our body, to use it against us. It's a fat-soluble compound. It lingers around for longer in the blood, but it's not actually... the detection of it doesn't actually show impairment, and the level of detection is incredibly low. In Ireland, it's at 1 nanogram per milliliter of blood, and what they actually showed from a document when they were putting out these things is that if they increased it from 1 to 1.5 nanograms, just that little half of an increase, 65% would have been the number of was the reduction. Again, I might be misquoting that, like, but it was a rather high number. It was definitely above 40 anyway. Would have been the reduction. So again, they went for that 1 nanogram in order to make sure that there's more people over the limit. But not necessarily. So again, we need to get up and stand up for our rights, guys, because they're using this shit against us. Like, you know, this isn't impairment here in this situation, and quite possibly this individual here will be losing a job. Maybe there's an hour trek between his and that person's place of work. Maybe they're living up there on one of the commuter towns there, and they work inside in Dublin or something. They got like an hour drive in, an hour's drive home. Who knows? I know people out there who rely on their car for work, and if they were to lose their license, man, that's going to cause a serious problem in their life. And again, what real danger were they to people out there, you know? Ah, shit, I see it's lagging there on YouTube. Sorry for that, Podge, man. Apologies. Apologies there, guys, if it is causing a bit of issues out there for you. But we'll drive on because, again, we talk about the people who are benefiting from the war on drugs, and it's certainly not this next individual, Joshua Allen, who was found in possession of €280 of kind of possession of cocaine, which was found on the site where he was. Basically, they got an engineer involved in the case. And the engineer came down and testified that, look, there was very low lighting down there, and it would have been very hard for the Garda to be able to determine, even with the assistance of a flashlight, that Joshua Allen was the person who would have dropped that bag of cocaine down there, young people or whatever. And once the Gardaí arrived on the scene, Josh Allen, and he was there apparently with two chicks, quite an obvious reaction that you're going to have. And the guard made a claim then that, he's seen Joshua Allen dropping. There was no street lighting really down there available in the situation. And it would have been very hard for the guard to determine, whether that was actually Joshua Allen's bag of cocaine. This young fella's been through fucking a lot of shit for the last while. They're really going after him now in ways, making an example of him because his mother is a celebrity, and they're trying to kind of paint him as this like spoiled kid or something like that, this troubled spoiled kid or whatever. Like he's a young fella. Like the worst thing that's happening here is how he's being dragged through the media. Like his name is being brought up over and over again. Like if the guy has got a drug problem, if you will, like if he's got an addiction or what for people's mental health, like this is how we treat drug users out there, and especially people coming from, maybe a well-known, but in fairness, like this young fella, he needs to be getting proper help if that's what he needs. He doesn't need to be media, like this is in France, like over in France. Like that's crazy, man. What's that actually doing to the poor young fella? Like, as opposed to what maybe a bit of cocaine would have been doing to him. Like, how much more harmful is it to have your name dragged through the media because of your drug use, because you're getting caught with drugs, as opposed to maybe the harm that would have been there if you were just using those drugs, whether it be responsibly or abusing them. Like, and if you're abusing them, like, if you're a person who's abusing drugs, maybe you're a person who's actually experienced some traumatic shit in the past, and that's a symptom of that underlying issue. And then you're just compounding that problem now for that individual by like 20 grand's worth of coke or something like that. They done a controlled delivery on his gaff down in Ballymaloo House, and ever since then, like it seems the authorities have just had a horn for him down below in Middleton. Just any opportunity, I take it that they see him, they're kind of just seeing people like, this person's entitled to live a nice private life. Like, who cares if his mother is a celebrity? Like, if this guy's got a drug, shame the drug use out of him. Like, really, like, we'll shame the drug use out of him. Like, like, I'm just getting a picture now of that Game of Thrones fucking scene where they send that Queen one, shame, that walk of shame, like shall we do that with Josh Allen there next week, get out the whips and chains there, lads, get your rocks of shame, like, start battering him there as he's walking down the streets, like. This is sad, like, this is scumbagish what they're doing, like if Josh Allen, again, like, if he's a person suffering from whatever it is, is driving his drug use, it'll make things a lot worse for him if he does have underlying mental health issues. I'm not saying he does, I'm just saying there's a possibility maybe he does. Like, maybe the pressures there of whatever he is expected of him because of his family, his background, maybe he feels like he can't live up to this shit and he's just like, fuck it. Like, I don't know, man. I'd love to sit down and have a chat with the dude someday, like, but again, I just think it's shameful the way in which he's been dragged through the media like this. Like, it's very unfair, like, and it's only because he's a drug user. Like, I'd say something if he was out there raping kids or something like that, like, but the guy just has a drug use problem. Like, come on, like, drive on, leave him alone. Like, stop trying to do this shame shit, like. Shaming them. But we drive on anyway, guys, because we go from one young fella to another young fella, where this young fella, a young fella who in his 20s, and nice one there, Russell Banta. He's just after sending in a €15 super chat, a legend. He says, great to catch you live for once and looking forward to our podcast. I'll be done moving after this weekend so we can do it after them, but excellent. Glad to hear that. And Yeah, good to hear things are settling down for you. I know moving can be a bit of a pain in the behind, but nice one for the support of the show there, and for the super chat, much appreciated. But again, and Mustawa is there as well. I see Mustawa is as well saying, "Don't forget to feed the birds, Martin." Y'all, legend there, Mustawa is. That hasn't popped up on screen yet, but it's going to pop up in a couple. Court after cannabis valued at 60 grand was found in his car. But again, as I say, this was a young fella. In this case, a guy in his 20s. This was where he failed to stop at a speed checkpoint on the Tipperary border, and he was later then picked up by the Gardaí at a forecourt of a petrol station, I believe it was. And well, the Drogger 5000 detected cannabis on him, so obviously they done a blood test, and there's going to be further analysis required there, again paid for by me or you. And also then they found 60 grand worth of cannabis inside in the car, and this was above a Nielsen. Potentially his life now, his future jeopardized here, being brought to court, criminalized for having, about 3 kilos worth of cannabis. Like, that cannabis was going to pose no threat to anybody unless maybe it was sprayed with something adulterant. Again, but that's because of prohibition. That's not because of cannabis. This young fella mightn't have even known that it was sprayed, but in this case, I suppose the more important thing to draw attention to is the fact that this young fella didn't stop for the guards at the speed check. He was obviously speeding down the road. They picked him up at the speed check, and he kept going, so he must have been lifting it, He's getting done for dangerous driving as well, but I suppose, he's lifting it. This individual is in fear of his life. And in him, is fleeing the scene, taken on from the interception at the speed checkpoint. He obviously was going so fast, that the guards weren't even able to catch up with him, because he was later picked up by maybe a different unit of the cops further up the road, by chance of just coming across him. He was stopped at the garage at this point, but at any point along that, he could have lost control of the car and lost his own life because of 60 grand's worth of cannabis. Even if it was 6 million or 60 million worth of cannabis, that's still not worth any person's life. And for a person to be so unfair of their life that they're going to literally risk it by taking on a high-speed chase with the guards in pursuit, that really goes to show how much fear is put into people, that they'll go and risk that level of danger. And again, me or you, we could be out there driving up the road, minding our own business, and next, all of a sudden, we see a car flip over the bloody divide of the road, because he's lost control after being taken chase from the cops. He's trying to get away. He's in fucking fear of his life. And now, not only is his own life taken, but, the individuals in that car, let's say, God forbid, touch fucking wood, it ever happened to be me and my fucking family. I don't want this situation. I don't want this war to be being waged on our streets and our Ireland, you know what I mean? That we need to make Ireland a safer place for all of us, And that is a very likely scenario, because the main strip of Ireland, the M50, Cork, the Dublin, again, hopefully we can get back up and running with our sporting events. And once that's happening, I frequent on that road, and that road is being used as a corridor for these drug mules, or call them what you will, drug couriers, and they're running drugs up and down that road fucking day in, day out. And any one of those days I could be using that road, I know buddies from and they use that road regularly. And I would hate to hear a situation, where an individual like this with a small amount, and this is a small amount of cannabis, 3 fucking kilos, 3 sugar bags, just think about it, 3 kilos, 3 sugar bags, that's a small amount of cannabis, and for anyone's life to be at risk because of that, man, shaming people for creating this situation, And again, this is the importance of why we all need to get up and fucking stand up for this shit, because this is a war, that's been waged in the streets of Ireland as a neutral country, where the government is waging a war against its people, against its own fucking people on this. They're infringing upon our human fucking rights, they're invading our privacy. Literally, I know people sending messages, they're afraid that their message will get intercepted if they mention cannabis, if they mention weed, if they mention grass, if they mention green. They're terrified. They're terrified of their own government, man. This is wrong. We shouldn't have this in our country. I want to make Ireland a safer country. People think this is this young fella, this young fella. I have to stop referring to myself as a young fella. I'm 30 now, 31 actually. But this man, he wants to just legalise cannabis so everyone can get stoned. No, I want to end this fucking war on drugs so my kids can walk the streets in a much more safer environment. So I know that the drugs are actually controlled. They call them controlled drugs, but they're anything but. I would like to see a regulated a system where the drugs are actually controlled, where there's a premises where you can go buy whatever your drug of choice is, and there's a person there who'll ask your ID, do you know? And hopefully that there's cameras outside to make sure that they're checking that you're not handing it over to kids and shit like that, stuff like that. These are proper protections. But it's not just about getting stoned. Like, this is such a bigger issue. Human fucking rights, making the country safer for our kids, like, all of this shit, like, and yeah, we will be able to go in and buy our cannabis then, like, that'll be a benefit of it too, like, but it's not the most important thing of it. Like, the kids are for me obviously the most important part of it, being able to provide for my own kids, ah. And I see Rihanna Ash asking, accept hard drugs. Is that to me you're asking that, accept hard drugs? Or is that a conversation going on there? Like, for me, I make it no secret. I definitely think the prohibition of all drugs needs to end. I think having any of them illegal only creates a system in which these criminals are only going to grow larger and stronger and put our kids at much more risk. I think a compassionate approach needs to be taken to all forms of drug use, and everyone's choice respected. And we need to come up with a way in which then we can kind of create a regulated way in which everybody can get access to whatever their drug of choice is, and they're given the education to prevent the harms from those drugs, such as knowing their dose and all of that. Because not all drug use is addiction. Professor Carl Hart, like, he's really opened my eyes to that. Like, and check out his book, Drug Use and the Land of Liberty, or something like that. Drug Use for Adults in the Land of Liberty, I think it's called. Apologies if I'm getting that name wrong, but he's a legend, like, and he uses heroin as his form of drug. And you might see heroin as a hard drug, and he would probably, I don't know, would he agree with you with that terminology? But again, he can use heroin and not get addicted to it. He can understand how he can get addicted to it if he is abusing it and not using it as a tool in the way in which he is. So again, yeah, certainly, like, I think all drugs need to be decriminalized and regulated for the maximum protection of our society. It's the only way in which I see we can really reduce the harms from drugs. Keeping prohibition in place, like, how would you ever hope that would reduce the harm from drugs from a person injecting a drug which comes from an unregulated? Regulate the source of the drugs, and you can reduce the harms in a serious way. And I see your comment in there as well, saying I'm up for the Amsterdam style, but I wonder how Portugal handled the hard drugs and how they lifted the prohibition and it was legalized for sale. A way in which people can get access to their drug of choice. And Cáceres Drogas, check out his page there, and he's kind of highlighting some of the stuff, some of the failings of only decriminalization. Obviously, it's a very good step forward, but it is only one step in a long journey that needs to be taken to undo the harms of the prohibition. Because it's been in place for so long, it's going to take a small bit of time for us to undo the harms. And prohibition is just one step in that pathway. Sadly, Portugal stopped there, and now there is a major problem on the streets of drugs being sold that aren't actually the drugs. So again, Cáceres Drogas out there went and bought heroin, and it actually turned out to be cinnamon. He bought hash, it turned out to be bay leaf extract. He's after buying, I believe, I think he bought cocaine, which wasn't fucking cocaine. I think it was like a sherbet or something like that. But again, yeah, the drugs on the streets are certainly not what they're being sold as, which is a problem of decriminalization, because these people can't be done for anything now. They know themselves, that they can't be done for trying to sell these drugs. So it's a big problem over there. So decriminalization alone doesn't work at all, but it's certainly a step forward in the right direction. But regulation, controlling the actual supply of the drugs, is the best way in which to do it. Because otherwise you can't guarantee protection there to the consumers of those drugs, which is a major risk to them. And also once you're supplying the drugs to them, you can supply education to those individuals at the point of supply. Things such as poly drug use. One of the biggest causes of drug overdoses is not actually an overdose of one drug. It's actually poly drug use. It's using a number of drugs in combination, which leads to catastrophic effects within the body. Compounds being produced there that have far more potent effects on the body in terms of toxicity than the compounds would have had they been used in a more appropriate fashion. So again, education, and the best way to deliver education is by reducing the stigma, so people can actually come forward and access the services and not be shamed away because their drug use is illegal and they should be criminal. That kind of shame that exists because of prohibition. So that's the story there. I suppose that's my opinion on that. But thanks very much though for asking the question. I appreciate it. I think it's important that people kind of get to hear this as well, because we as a cannabis community, while we're campaigning for the decriminalization of our own drug, we have to be mindful that we're not expressing the same discrimination towards other drug users as we experience from the prohibitionists, because we wouldn't be any better than them then if we started doing that. I think that's important, that we too show compassion to other drug users as we would like to be shown to us. It comes from the Bible, I suppose. And again, I'm not a wholly religious person or anything like that, but treat others as you would like them to treat you. So take that as you will. And for me, I would like to treat other drug users with respect, as I would like to be treated with respect on this one. So we drive on, guys, and thanks very much again, Ryan Ash, for your contribution there to the show. And we'll hop on from Ireland and we'll go over to the UK, where in the UK, again, a major failing of prohibition in the UK has been the use of slaves, pretty much slaves, and I ain't going to call them that because these people have no protections at all. In this case, this was the comments coming from a judge saying the cannabis farm bosses are spineless cowards. And this was in a case where there was two Albanians who were illegally in the UK were caught at a property where there was 112,000 pound worth of cannabis, and 9 kilos of cannabis in total. And I suppose the house was converted for the growing of cannabis as well. In total, there was 161 plants in the property. They describe the property being set up in a sophisticated way with high intensity light bulbs out there using the automatic trimmers. We were only talking about those on the high and homegrown actually. But again, in this situation anyway here, the Albanian individuals who got caught in this, they were 25 and 26. Corey and Leela were their names. I don't know, is that a male and female, or is that two females? I'm not too sure what the situation is here. It's not giving their genders. But again, like in this situation, these people are being used. They're obviously not getting paid a fair wage. They're in the UK illegally. They're growing the cannabis. It's quite possible they could be there under duress. Maybe their families actually being held over in Albania, and if they don't carry out this activity, harm will come to their family. Again, you just don't know the situations that these people and the individuals find themselves in here, because these crime gangs are fucking so powerful, man. I done a piece there on Albania on one of the shows maybe a week or two ago, and it talked about the rise of the crime gangs there. There was pretty much a mafia type situation over there with they pretty much ran the show of the town, or even the country in a sense, like, and it was just a major mess. And now these crime gangs, they've been exporting their people, and that's what they've been doing there now, is that they've been exporting people from Albania to the UK through their drug trafficking networks, because they've gotten good with importing drugs into it. That they've created these networks of trafficking, and they're now trafficking people to the UK to grow the cannabis there, because if they grow the cannabis there, well, we actually don't have to deal with the importation. It's probably easier to actually sneak a person into the UK than it is to sneak cannabis in, I would imagine. And once you have the person there, then sure, that person keeps growing the cannabis for you there then. happy days. Do you know what I mean? You as an organised crime gang, sure, you're well removed from the situation. You're not actually ever going to get caught here. And that's what the judges is acknowledging. And, you know, they're spineless, they're staying away, they're cowards, they're not the ones doing the dirty work. But really, like, who's the real coward, man? The judge is sitting in the courtroom full of cops. Like, nobody's ever going to come harm to him. He's probably living in a big walled estate, somewhere in the country. You know, a massive protection, security, or cameras everywhere. But you know, he's never really going to be a threat here. You know, his kids probably going to a private school. You know, thinking that they're above this. But even his kids are actually going to be falling victim to this quite soon if he does have kids and stuff, because they'll probably get involved in drug use too. But at least they won't be at the same risks of falling in front of a judge, because obviously their dad is a judge, and there's a two-tier system out there, as we all know. But in this situation anyway, the individuals involved got a 12-month sentence, which will mean deportation as well. And the other one as well, or one of them got a 20-month sentence too. Actually, one of them got a 20-month sentence, the other one got a 24-month sentence, and a sentence that goes above 12 months will mean deportation for the individuals. So again, you know, that they're going to be deported here because of their crime. It's a sad case, you know. If anything, the judge should be coming out and basically kind of trashing the government, if you will. Because, like, in the UK, I suppose, and that's going to be the next headline there, is that there's damaging police leniency over cannabis revealed. And this was a headline coming out because of, in the UK now, they're showing that, I think it's like, is it 6 in 10 people, the headline is saying here, 9 in 10 actually, 9 in 10 people in parts of the country are escaping court after being caught with cannabis. So there's an organisation after coming out against, hitting out against this over there, and this is an organisation, sorry I popped that up there at the wrong time, by the name of Cannabis Skunk Sense. If you've ever heard of them, cannabis, don't let it shatter your dreams. But really, like, you could change these to, it's only cannabis, so why should you stop, or why should you be criminalized for it? Or this one, you know, it should read prohibition, don't let it shatter your dreams, because that's the real shatterer of dreams, as I've talked about, you know. And that's just the first two things that pop up. There's a load of fucking fallacies there on their thing, like, man, and they talk about, like, get the facts and challenge perceptions. They're creating so much misinformation, like, they're muddying the waters here with what they're doing. Like, cannabis skunk sense, like, do you know what I mean? The skunk part of it there really just goes to show that they're coming at it from this demonization point of view. But anyway, I suppose with that in mind, you know, 9 in 10 people in certain areas of the UK are not getting criminalised for cannabis, but yet still there's organised crime gangs out there making millions every year off the back of these slaves, Albanian people, being used like this, you know. We need to set up a system where there's people employed to grow the cannabis, they get a fair wage. We're not facilitating the trafficking of humans from other countries to our country. You know, why isn't that the conversation that goes on there with that judge in the last one, when he's calling the criminal spineless cowards? The real spineless cowards are the politicians who won't step in to actually do something and change the way in which we look at this other kind of drug use, you know. Because we can tolerate drug use in our society. We tolerate alcohol quite fucking well. We tolerate tobacco use, we tolerate coffee, we tolerate sugar. These are all drugs in our society that we tolerate, like, and if we were to put a prohibition in place, imagine the damage we would do if we put a prohibition of sugar in place, like, you know, and you had to go down the road and get a bag of sugar off your drug dealer, like, you know. The government said no more fucking processed sugar. Like, if you want to get something sweet, it has to be from honey, and that white powdered sugar, like, no, that's damaging to your health, and we're going to ban it, like, you know, imagine the damage that would be done. Like, kids and thing, like, selling sweets, like, you know, to each other, coming from fucking organised crime gangs, like that would be madness, wouldn't it? It'd be about as mad as trying to put a prohibition in place because of cannabis, like, if not more fucking mad. But anyways, they're charging just 1 in 8 people, offenders, with the remainder let off with a caution, community resolution, or on the spot fine. By contrast, the toughest police forces are charging up to 60% of people caught with the Class B drug, which has increased in its potency and been linked to psychosis and mental ill health. I love how they say this in the article, which has been increased in its potency and linked to psychosis and mental ill health. What about the hundreds of thousands of people out there right now benefiting from the medical use of cannabis? The anti-inflammatory properties, the anti-emetic properties. I could go on there to the many benefits that people experience from using cannabis. Why aren't you ever mentioning this? Like, the media are hell bent and focusing on the harms of cannabis. Why? Why isn't there no mention there to the fact that, there's people out there who suffer with cancer and they're living a bit longer, they're living past their expectancy because cannabis affords them an improved quality of life that prolongs their life then in turn. At that end stage, I'm not making a claim there that cannabis cures cancer. There's certainly evidence out there that shows cannabis can kill cancer cells and reduce their growth. But I'm not even making that. I'm just talking about improvement in quality of life there, and the prolonging of the end of life for a person, at the same time. Amazing wonders, and they always exclude it when they talk about cannabis, especially these organizations, as I talked about there, such as that one that I mentioned there a few seconds, Cannabis Skunk Sense. They go on to say then that of the 91,479 people caught with cannabis in England last year, only 21,672 people were charged, with the remainder dealt with through out-of-court settlements that did not result in a criminal record. Again, does this not reflect that there needs to be a major change? We're not even criminalizing people any longer. Well, this is in the UK again, just to remind people, but they're not even criminalizing people to in any meaningful way over in the UK. Much like we're not even doing that here either. How many people actually get off with the court box donations here? I wonder, would it be in line with the numbers over in the UK versus how many actually get a conviction? We don't have the same, though, on-the-spot fines that they seem to be able to hand out in the UK because of this. Maybe that's something that needs to be worked on here. But no, actually, no, fuck that. Actually, no, it doesn't. Why would we want to even work on that? I don't want an on-the-spot fine. I want to be able to be respected walking down the street when I got cannabis in my pocket. And if a guard smells it, man, he can keep his business to himself, because it ain't none of his what's in my pockets. It poses no threat to anybody. Come on, this bag of cannabis, if it's in my pocket, it ain't gonna jump out and stab nobody. So why should a guard want to take it from me? But they go on to say here anyway in this article that David Rains of the National Drug Prevention Alliance said that the astonishing disparity in the recent figures on police inaction by different constabularies must be a cause for concern by ministers. In other words, he wants them to step in and take away the autonomy that these police forces have and make them do their job. That's kind of what he's saying. We want to see 100% convictions here. He's just shy of saying that. And I believe if he was asked, he probably would express that view. Yeah, everybody caught with drugs should be criminalised to the full extent of the law, because their drug use it's immoral. Scumbag is what you are, David Rains. And then Mary Brett of the Cannabis Skunk Sense, it's a drug prevention charity. This is actually a charity, man. She's a scumbag. Mary Brett, you're a scumbag. You actually set up a scumbag charity called Cannabis Skunk Sense. I hope nobody donates to you, but I'm sure you get a load of donations coming in there from the alcohol industry, probably, don't you? Because the alcohol industry are certainly are set in their ways of demonizing cannabis because it poses a threat to their industry. Cannabis being a very good alternative there to alcohol use. But she says the partial decriminalization underestimated the health risks from the drug. She says this variability in the charging rate unfortunately simply reflects the varying attitudes of the people and the effects of the drug. There is a lot written about cannabis, but not the truth about how it actually operates in the body and brain. She says cannabis is actually a very harmful drug in itself and leads to the use of others. Until the true dangers of cannabis use are widely agreed on and properly publicised, great damage will happen. Well, Mary, come on, like the damage here is coming from your misinformation. How many patients are out there right now? You know, how many people are out there administering cannabis to their kids and watching their kids live a much fuller life because the kid isn't suffering from fucking severe, debilitating seizures, you know? And meanwhile, you're doing everything in your power to keep the stigma, and you're a scumbag for what you're doing. Like, this shit needs to change. Like, you can't be doing this, Mary. Like, Mary goes on to say that, or no, she doesn't say anymore actually in this, does she? No, she doesn't. So I'm done with that. Like, you know, really, like the cannabis skunk sense. That's the first I've heard of them. Like, and it's crazy. I hope nobody out there donates to them. Like, it's crazy that these people are even able to set up charities. But look, it is what it is, and I'm sure we can all see straight through the nonsense that these guys are peddling. So we drive on, guys, and I'm just gonna. Where is me? I'm just gonna get a bit of lubrication there before we pop up the next headline for you. So there's again something I brought up in the show before. Is the levels that the drug gangs are willing to go to in order to facilitate their operations. In this headline, it's that the drug gangs are posing as council workers to steal power from for cannabis factories. This again is another headline coming from the UK. Oh, excuse me. So this is coming out of the UK again, where the crime gangs were going out in like council vans with the high-vis jackets, cones, like everything, you name it, man, they got it. And they were setting up as if they were legitimate workers. And meanwhile, actually, what they were doing, they were tapping into the electricity of the locals, and they were stealing electricity off the grid, diverting it on into their own property, like. Crazy, like, but it just goes to show, like, the level of sophistication that these drug gangs are capable of, and how we're, us as a community, I suppose, again, this is coming from the UK, of how we're losing out. You know, these guys are willing to steal their electricity. They don't want to pay taxes. They don't want to pay fair wages. We could step in with regulations and say, like, oh yeah, look, actually you can set up a cannabis grow operation there, look, and yeah, you have to follow the rules that are in place for fair employment. Like, yeah, happy days, like, and you wouldn't be stealing electricity. Why in the name of God would you go stealing electricity? Like, why would you risk losing your commercial cannabis production license? Like, you wouldn't. You wouldn't, right? But because of prohibition, like, we have these unsavory type characters are going to come in and they see an opportunity to make a pile of money. Suppose from, I don't know, I suppose private companies, so fuck them. but again, like, the stealing off of the grid, we pay for this down the road, I suppose, in some way. But it's dangerous. It poses a real threat to life because it could cause fires, it could cause electrocutions, and untold dangers there. Again, only because of prohibition, it's coming up. So again, you know, if we just legalize and regulated this stuff, we'd be able to create jobs and end this silly robbing of electricity and this silly putting lives at risk needlessly. It doesn't need to be the case, like. The criminals out there, then they can go and fuck off to the other criminal shit they do, and at least then the Gardaí will be a lot more effective at actually targeting them in things like child trafficking, you know, human trafficking, shit like that, like human pornography or child pornography, all of that nasty stuff. Like, our Gardaí need to be more free to tackle that stuff and less focused on this kind of shit, like, you know. This just really annoys me, man. And the final headline I have for you there today, guys, is we're going back to the Cannabis, Oxford Cannabinoid Technologies. This was a headline that came to my attention there as I was gathering for today's 420 news. And I just thought, it just annoyed me, like, you know, this company are using Snoop Dogg and a backed cannabis firm. Like, this is not a cannabis firm. This is a fucking biotechnology company that is in the business of producing synthetically derived compounds, I suppose. No, bio-derived compounds. I don't know how you would call or describe it, but basically they're using things like biotechnology, bacteria, growing it up in a big massive container, a big vat, and then they extract things like THC, CBD, and stuff like that from the bacteria. There's no cannabis being grown. And then Snoop Dogg, like they're attaching Snoop Dogg to this. It's the oh geez, what's it called? Casa Verde. That's the venture capitalist firm that Snoop Dogg is involved with, along with like multiple other people. There's four other people chairing that organization. There's probably loads of other people involved in it that are actually invested in some of these. They have a massive portfolio. It's a fucking venture capitalist company. They've got a 3.5% stake in this company, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, Snoop Dogg-backed cannabis firm. It's like Snoop Dogg probably doesn't even know these guys exist. I would imagine if Snoop Dogg looked into it, he'd be like, that ain't no cannabis firm. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, well, maybe Snoop Dogg's a businessman too. Like, maybe he's happy because he sees an opportunity. Because, like, within this article, like, they talk about the fact that this company is producing the cannabis compounds. Like, you know, again, as I say, like, it's derived through biotechnology. It's not actually coming from cannabis plants. But they expect it to be able to raise 51.5 million, like, you know what I mean? And again, look at what they're doing, like throwing Snoop Dogg's name out there to draw attention to their company in order to entice people to invest into them. They're calling themselves a cannabis firm, but in actual fact, they're growing no cannabis. They're producing, yes, THC, but like when THC has been grown in a vat, like that's just a drug. That has nothing to do with cannabis. Like, so how are you a cannabis firm? Like, really? Like, yeah, it's a bit of stretch on the word. Like, I think it's just a word that they're using to draw attention to themselves in order to be able to raise more money. Because this company, again, as I talked about the other day, they're creating pain relief treatments using the cannabinoids. Again, cannabinoids, we're being told of no medicine, like from cannabis, like the same cannabinoids that come from cannabis, you know, where we're being told cannabis has no medicinal benefit. But meanwhile, these companies are raising millions off of the back of the potential benefits that these products now that they're going to create are going to make. So they're creating painkillers, and it's saying that it is understood the market for such painkillers is worth more than 42.5 billion globally. So again, if you're able to create these cannabinoid painkillers, like you were in line to be able to take your share of a 42.5 billion pound market, that's a massive market. And again, you know, it kind of makes it clear then as to why, you know, it's important that they keep cannabis illegal, because if we're growing cannabis out our backyard, and then look, that becomes a less of a valuable economy market then, doesn't it? Because there's not as many people going to be out there looking for it, because it's now going to be everywhere, you know. So again, you have to wonder why cannabis is such a vested interest there in order to keep it illegal, and why things like the media don't report on it. Again, you look at the media, man. The media are large, like pharmaceutical companies. They buy up large amount. They pay off a lot of these media companies, you know, with their advertisements and stuff like that. They're all in someone's pocket, you know. They're all buddy up there, like in the big boys club. So again, you know, and again, that's me putting on my tinfoil hat there. Like, I've got no real evidence there to back up any of those kind of claims. But it really, like, there's a lot of money at stake there, and you really have to wonder, like, why cannabis is still illegal after so long. And you see this then, and you're like, well, it's the fucking money, man. They're going to make so much money by creating these drugs and selling us something that we can't grow ourselves because it's illegal to grow it yourself. Here I am with an honours degree in herbal science, like, and I can't progress any further in the cannabis industry, because it's incredibly restricted. It's illegal. I would love to be able to explore cannabis as a medicine, to be able to research it, to be able to work with patients here in Ireland, but I can't because it's criminal. Why that in itself is criminal? Like, we're preventing people who want to do good, who want to go out there and help people in our society. We're preventing them from doing that. We're holding them back for this prohibition that creates an environment where kids as young as fucking 7 and 8 are selling drugs, where kids as young as 3 or 4 are consuming adulterated substances that are you know, coming from an unregulated source. Sick system. But that's it, guys. That is all of the 420 news for today. Nice one, everybody, for tuning in and listening. Much appreciated, everybody. I see so many comments coming in throughout the show. I see you're all having a good old conversation out there with yourselves. The first one coming up there, Tom Hennessy, that I can see, it's the vaccine passport will determine everything about us. That the establishment will be able to know. It will be the first if you're vaccinated or not. And then they'll add more to it, and it won't go away. Yeah, guys, we've got a dark future ahead of us if we don't rise up now to control the government and getting over our lives at the very moment. Like, it's crazy. Like, all under the guise of protecting public health. When we all know, like, everyone out there, Linder, that, guys, you know, it really does. Like, I can't help but, like, last year when this pandemic came and the government were all about, like, public health, I was like, the government don't care about fucking public health, like, you know, and that was kind of my feeling. I was like, they only care about control and power, and they're going to use this opportunity now to get more control and power over our lives. That's what they done with drugs, you know. They created this mass hysteria, this fear out there through the media, and they then banned drugs, you know, through fear and hysteria, and they gained more control over our lives. We relinquished more of our freedoms when we're in a state of fear and panic. That's what they've created with this pandemic, and I'm very fearful as, again, it really does, it made me question it just because of that guy's public health, you know. Oh, for for in the interest of public health. When I hear the government say these kind of things, I'm like, Do you know, the sugar tax, in the interest of public health, we're going to put in a sugar tax. Increasing the price of tobacco, in the interest of public health. Minimum unit alcohol for the interest of public health. Come on, like, as Eddie Bravo said, like, I got my skeptical hippo eye dude's name, the MMA fighter, the fighter and the kid. Shit, can't remember his name now. Anyhow, it'll come to me later on when I'm sitting down doing nothing. Yeah, you're topping up on that. Other comments out there, guys. Vaccine passports already exist in some nations. We've had them here in Ireland in some form already. They just weren't compulsory for your travel. I got the hepatitis B one and something else as well when I went to Thailand. And I think I have it here actually still in my safe. Like, it was a little vaccine passport stamped for the hepatitis and stamped for something else. I can't remember what the second one was, but I got 2 vaccines when I went to Thailand anyway. Like, but it was advised, but I don't think it was compulsory at all. You know, so interesting. Podge saying here that in some states in America, the alcohol companies are the legal couriers for some weed dispensary companies. Mad to think that. Yeah, it is crazy to think, all right, like, you know, we can definitely coexist. Like, you know, while I would say that the alcohol companies might be have a vested interest here in keeping cannabis illegal, I definitely think the two can coexist. You know, I think that you know, wine and cannabis would go quite well together, and in a responsible way. I definitely do think that having an access to cannabis would encourage more responsible use of alcohol, because, you know, you'd be less likely to maybe get drunk if you're a little bit high. I don't know, like, that's just my feeling anyway. Like, I often found that when I was drinking and smoking, I would always drink way less. And if I wanted to drink more, I would have to make sure that I wasn't smoking earlier in that day. That was going back to the days in which I used to drink. Those are the days are well gone. But not to say that they're completely gone. I wouldn't be I wouldn't say no to a messy one again someday in the future, like, but not any day soon. Other comments out there. I think for sure some airplane companies are already mandating proof or being fully vaccinated. Yeah, I'm hearing stuff like that, alright. At least with proof of testing before you fly. That's kind of what I'm hearing from some companies. Others, Mustawa is here saying Tropical Medical Bureau, TMB, in Ireland already have vaccine books, passports for MERs, etc. Yeah, that's the ones, the Tropical Medical Bureau. That's the guys who I got my book from, actually, Mustawa is. So, yeah, nice one for that, man. Fergus Grace also saying here, oh, I thought it was real natural that Snoop was involved. No, man, I think Snoop doesn't really have too much say in that. Like, I think Snoop just bought into this Casa Verde, and they're doing the investing. Then I really wonder how much say Snoop has in the investing that this company actually does. I think he's just not, yeah, I'll invest in Casa Verde. Let's go out there and invest in cannabis businesses. And meanwhile, the partners come in, then, you know what I mean? The other faces of the company come in and take over. And then meanwhile, Snoop is just, his name is used then. I could be speaking out of turn. Maybe Snoop knows everything. Technologies, maybe that's what they're called. But yeah, maybe he knows everything about him and he actually does endorse him. I don't know, but like it would seem like maybe he wouldn't, because they're not even fucking growing cannabis, man. They're imposters. They're imposters. They're after getting in under the radar. Anybody out there in touch with Snoop, put him wide. I think he's after being hoodwinked. Get them to do a redaction there, Snoop, man. Tell them you don't back their firm. Come out and publicly fucking smear their name. Tell them they're imposters. Other comments there. Debbie, what's happening, Debbie? Debbie says the main dangers of cannabis are compounded by prohibition. Exactly. She says governments are gifting cannabis to the black market. We wouldn't leave alcohol and tobacco to the black market and expect good outcomes. So why do it with any other drugs? Policies should be based on hard science, harm reduction, and best practice from around the world. Well said, Debbie. Great comment. Thanks very much for that. 100%. I agree with you there. Couldn't said it any better myself. Other comments coming in as well, and thanks for your contribution, Debbie. Tom Hennessy saying the vaccinated are going to have more freedom than the unvaccinated. We're going to have a two-tier society again, even more two-tier now than what was before. There was a good meme though that was up there on the I seen it was like a beach. I had the vaccinated on one side and the unvaccinated on the other side, and the vaccinated side of the beach was fucking jammed packed of people, and the unvaccinated side kind of had sparsely packed, loads of people moving around having the crack. Like, it was kind of funny, like, kind of if everyone gets vaccinated, then what's the problem, like, Other comments coming in. Tom Hennessy says probably Canada, but this pandemic will not allow us to have full freedom anymore. Canaman Scapegoat also saying the Czech Republic is going to have a Second Amendment thing soon, maybe. Didn't hear about that. I must check in on it. Keith Griffin, what's happening? Keith says great news as always, Martin. Keep and have a good weekend. Keep our lip raw and everyone. Nice one for that, Keith. Much appreciated as always. Excuse me. Other comments coming in, and I'm going to pack up a bowl here actually as well as I'm looking through your comments. I really need to get myself a bigger studio and get myself some company in here so somebody can like be lining up comments to bring to my attention, so I just don't have to read conversation between yourselves. I'm going to have to get myself an old Jamie. And that's an assistant if you don't know what a Jamie is. Other comments. Wooly, what's happening? Wooly says, sweet Martin, many thanks, not a bother at all. Mustawa says, wall of text in the comments, laugh out loud. I see buffering out there as well. Apologies, guys, for the dropped frames there today. Anyway, hopefully it wasn't too bad. Monsieur Fudge, what's happening? He says, nice one, man. Have a good weekend. Warzone session tonight with a biff. Excellent. I'll have to get you added up, guys. I keep on saying it. I haven't been on the PlayStation there now for a while, but I have a couple of your gamer tags there to be added in. So maybe we might get an old stream going there later on the Warzone. So a nice one there for the ad as well on Facebook, man. Sure. Brendan Schwab, that's the name, that's the fighter, that's the guy I was thinking of a while ago, the MMA head with the skeptical hippo eyes. That's who it was, wasn't it? Brendan Schwab. Schwab. Alter ego saying there that me tool of civil disobedience. I should have some hemp wick here actually to make it a bit easier, but I'm out of hemp wick. Tom Hennessy saying here, we had divisions with people in society over differences in ethnic groups and religious differences. The same principle will apply to the vaccinated and the unvaccinated in retrospect, to COVID. RDJW says red wine and hash is beautiful. I'll have to take your word for it because I don't think I've actually had the pleasure of combining red wine with hash. I've only ever done it with bud, and it's actually been quite nice. Like, yeah, like sipping on some red wine. Like, I don't know if you noticed actually, but last week when I was on the High and Homegrown podcast, I was actually drinking some wine. I didn't have my video on, so you wouldn't have noticed, and I don't think I spoke about it. But I was drinking red wine. I think I might have had 2 glasses over the course of the conversation with the lads, so over the 2 hours. I wasn't drunk or anything, like, but I was definitely tipsy, man. I got a very low tolerance to alcohol, and that was like a 13% red wine. I really enjoyed it, like, and it paired really well with the cannabis, like, you know. I was having bowls kind of in between talking with the lads, like, and every now and again I would have a sip of of the red wine, just a little sip, like, just to coat the palate, get the flavors going, and really, like, really enjoy it, like, you know. So it felt very sophisticated, man. But yeah, guys, cheers to everybody out there. I'm gonna blaze one up anyway. My mouth's watering now thinking of an old glass of red wine. Actually, you know, it was tasty. And saying that, actually, like, when we talk about the red wine and stuff, like, before the partner got pregnant, every now and again, you know, we would sit down and have a glass of wine together, like, you know, or a glass of wine together. But man, she would polish off the whole bottle in the space of time that I would be finishing a glass. Like, I would get red wine and she would get white wine. She would have a preference to that. But she'd be fucking finishing up my bottle of red wine before I'm even finished my first glass of red wine, like. So that'll tell you the speed at which I drink, compared to people out there who actually have a tolerance to alcohol, such as my partner. But again, like, I've no problem admitting that. Like, I'm a fucking lightweight when it comes to alcohol, like. But again, I enjoy it, like, from time to time, in a responsible manner. Do I like getting drunk? No. When I drank with my partner, like, I was just drinking to enjoy the taste of the red wine. I know there's other people out there who enjoy the taste of beer, and more power to them. To me, nah, beer isn't my thing. Like, I would have a cider, and again, I would drink one, and that's a responsible thing. Like, you know, I don't go out there and abuse it, like. Why can't I be afforded the same opportunity for fucking cannabis, man? Why is this a crime? Like, if the cops kick in my door right now, like, why is this illegal to have? Like, it's so messed up, guys. You gotta rise up and change this shit. Like, again, guys, form your grow clubs. Like, start growing your own cannabis. Stop relying on the organized crime gangs out there to be delivering your cannabis. Grow your own, guys. Create a massive, strong, united community of people determined to overcome this oppression that's been forced upon us by a fucking tyrannical government. They are tyrannical, man. They're a terrorist organisation right now, this government, and what they're doing to us. Using the bloody Gardaí. The Gardaí are nothing but bloody gangsters in uniform, coming after good people such as myself for using a bit of herb, man. Ah. But you all know this. I'm preaching to the choir, aren't I? Check out High and Homegrown as well, guys. Our Percy's Grow Room. If you want to learn about growing some cannabis, guys, you learn everything you need over there. And if there's anything over there that you don't know, not there that you don't know, ask the question, and I'm sure there's going to be somebody there who'll be able to answer it. That's percysgrowroom.com. Other comments out there, guys. Loads of communications between yourselves. Ryan Asher says, just at the dentist today, no smoking for a few days, septic crack. Yeah, I can remember that, actually. You've got a tooth removed, I'd imagine. You probably have an open, what's it called? Open cavity, is it? I'm not too sure what they call it. I made sure when that came up, I had to get 2 wisdom teeth from the upper side removed. And I made sure when that came up that I had edibles at the ready, and oil, because I wasn't going to be taking any of those painkillers that the doctor was prescribing me afterwards, and I successfully got through it. A little bit of discomfort, but yeah, I got through it. I didn't smoke for, I believe, was it about 48 hours? After 48 hours, then there should be enough of a cap there, a seal. But maybe you've been advised differently from your dentist, so don't take my advice on that one. But for me, it was about 48 hours I waited, and then I was back to the hooting on again. But again, I was smoking pure cannabis at that time as well. I wasn't mixing with tobacco, which probably would have reduced the harms, I suppose, the fucking the toxic shit that would be in the smoke. Probably had more beneficial effect, if anything, to be honest. Like a mouthful of fucking cannabis only smoke, in terms of like delivering benefits direct at a site of action. I see Russell Panther saying there, can you check that out, Jamie? Can you check that? Pull that up there, Jamie. Podgy says, great news as always, Martin, bro, and have a great weekend, bro. I might see you tonight. Excellent. Look forward to it, bro. What's happening out there as well? Who else is out there? Can't escape, man. Goat. He says, so they want pretty much everyone to have a vax and be masked because that's how they think. There's a lot of anti-vax and anti-max stuff going on out there, guys. Well, anti-this vaccine anyway, like, yeah, interesting. Yeah, it certainly always puts up. Bing. It always raises me me kind of yeah, my spidey senses really, like when the government, as I say, bring up this kind of public health stuff. Yeah, I won't be going out there queuing up for this vaccine myself anyway, that's for sure. I'm going to be out there running the streets, man. I'm going to be out there getting my vitamin D. I'm going to be eating right, exercising right, and that's how I'm going to protect myself. You know, I don't need their vaccine. A super chat there as well. What's Russell Bantas saying? He says, just call them tyrants again and won't let me super chat what I want to call them. Yeah, they are, man. The governments are the government are currently they're fucking tyrants. They're a tyrannical bunch of them. That a lot of them forcing their people who are supposed to be out there making us feel safe. They're after us. Like, do you know? As I look out my window, I look out to see if, you know, is that a cop car pulling up? Do you know what? That you shouldn't have this worry when it comes to the cops. Like, and that's done because of fucking an out of control tyrannical government, man. So I'd gladly repeat that there for you. And again, thanks very much for the support of the show. Wow. Yeah, we blazed up a bowl already. Yeah, we'll have to pack that one again. Yeah, no, dry socket. That's the one that you're trying to avoid. Actually, they're coming in there from Ryan Ash. Yeah, dry socket ain't no fucking joke. That's a nasty thing to experience. I didn't experience it, but I know somebody else who has, and woo, no bueno, no bueno. Fuck the juice, eat the fruit, or make a fruit smoothie. Yeah, that's true, man. If you're drinking the juice alone, you're missing out on all those valuable fibers. And if you're always blending up your fruit, man, and you're not getting the joint action, you know what I mean? You're going to be missing out on that opportunity to chew. And apparently, do you know when you chew something as well, like that's very interesting. And which, if you don't know, it's just basically chewing gum that's just plain flavorless or whatever. And they were able to show that just the chewing alone releases like enzymes and stuff from the saliva, which triggers the body into an action of into a mode of digestion. Does this alone. So when we do things like drink, you know what I mean? The body's only really expecting to receive a liquid. It's not really in the mode of like digestion as such, you know? It's only focused there like on like a minimum amount of energy, like in order to get what it needs from the water, I suppose, really like a liquid, if you will. Because you more absorption to happen. So that's another important part of why we should be, you know, maybe avoiding, you know, the fruit smoothies all along and stuff. Like, again, if you want to get these things, it is nice, man, don't get me wrong, I love a good fruit smoothie, but maybe while you're drinking your fruit smoothie, you should chew on some mastic gum. There's an idea for you guys. chewing some mastic gum while you're eating or drinking your fruit smoothie, and you will get more nutrient absorption from that than technically, based upon like what they've shown in the studies. That's a bit of bro science there for you. But very interesting nonetheless. I remember looking at this stuff. It was one of my buddies in herbal science. He was big in other comments. Podge, what's happening, Podge? Podge says you get used to it. I'm off tobacco nearly 3 months myself now, and the best thing I did um, is it Martin censoring us, our big YouTube. That's Russell. Was don't get lured back into it. Do you know it I don't know if you're going to be going for a pint and shit like that with the pubs. So if the pubs open up and the beer gardens, man, if you're out there, just don't get lured back into it, please, man. It'll be tempting. But yeah, definitely, I think that'll be the biggest challenge. I don't know if that's something that applies to yourself. I'm just only thinking that it might. I think you might have mentioned that you like the old pint of Murphy's or something like that. So maybe you frequent the pub when they opened. So just be mindful of the bear or the old bear garden and the smoking room at the pubs when they open back up, man. Don't fall off that horse. Keep going. Keep going, man. You're doing good. Other comments either Podge saying here that I won't be getting the vaccine either, especially when a company puts out a disclaimer on the jab. No thanks. Yeah, people definitely have their reservations out there, and you're more than entitled to it. I've respect for all people's opinions, even the people who want to go get the vaccine. And my mum was on about getting it. Like the reason why my mum wants to get the vaccine, it's she wants to go on holidays. She wants to be able to. You can go out and act normal. That's not the reason to get the flu vaccine or any vaccine. It's to reduce the risks of contracting that virus. You know, increase your body's ability to fight off that virus should it find itself in a situation where it's invaded by that virus. You know, but we're now how many people are actually getting the vaccine because they want to get back to normal? This is such a strange, it's such strange times, man, when people are going out getting a vaccine to get back to normal rather than for what vaccines should be for, which is to reduce you contracting a virus. Just fucking vaccine doesn't even reduce the risk of you contracting the virus. Apparently it reduces the harmful effects that the virus has upon you when you get it. The World Health Organization only came out and still apply to you. Like this is mad. Like it's crazy. Like I wonder how many people now are not going to get the vaccine as a result of the World Health Organization coming out and saying, hey, you can't do what you want when you get vaccinated. Like, you know, because how many people were getting it just. Guys, I'm seriously apologies there. I see yeah, man. I think this shit is too hot for them to handle. They can't keep up with the truths I'm dropping here, so they're censoring me. uh, but again, maybe head on over to Twitch. Maybe try to make Twitch a more frequent one. It seems that Twitch kind of gets pulled off a bit more seamlessly through the Streamlabs, or maybe I should give up on Streamlabs. Who knows? And just go only on YouTube. Who knows where the show goes from here? But obviously, I'm not happy now with this lagging that you're experiencing out there, guys. So my apologies. That shouldn't be happening. Other comments there, guys. Yeah, check out 420 Supplies. They might be able to hook you up with something. Tell them Martin sent you, and they might be able to hook you up extra nice. That's r420.ie. Other comments there, Russell saying here, just wait until payday, Martin. I'll have a nice dono for you. Russell, man, you're doing too much, man. You're a legend doing all you have. Actually, that's right, guys. If you do want to support the show, check out martinsworld.ie and you can donate through Bitcoin, and you also got the Patreon. But obviously, donating through the Bitcoin has the biggest impact to the show because there has 0 transaction fees there. And I will get the vast majority of the money then for any campaigning efforts or setting up of the activist hub kind of once that comes about. I'm still looking to do that, guys. We're going to do this. Like, we are going to do this. We're going to create a new social scene here in Cork around cannabis and activism. Yes. Yes, we cannabis. Can we do it? Yes, we cannabis. Ooh, fair's cotton mouth. See more comments coming in, guys. Keep them coming in there. I have about another five, maybe 5 or 10 minutes in me there, and we'll call it a day then after that. Myself and my daughter actually do have some plans to do a bit of online gaming later. We've gotten a game called It Takes Two. So myself and Alexis are actually going to chill here later on, and we're going to play a bit of online gaming. We're going to stream it, I think, to Twitch. I don't know if we'll do YouTube and Facebook as well, but I think we'll definitely be streaming on Twitch. So get over to Twitch if you haven't signed up to it already to check us out. Martin's World 420 News. That'll be myself and my younger daughter. We're going to be doing a little bit of online game and just having a bit of crack online as well. So check that out if you got the time later on this evening. So blaze on up, guys, and then I'll get back into the comments there for you. Yeah, Mustawiz, apologies again about the lag, man. Check out fucking Twitch there and see if it's happening over there. Hopefully it's not. What else is happening? Podgy says, I bought a 3-pack of these portable bong stems that you can put on a bottle. Well handy for the next sesh. That's handy actually, yeah. Those like kind of portable bong stems, you pop it into any bottle, a little downpipe, in with the gauze, man. Pack it up, hit the bowl. The lads from feck, I can't remember the name of it now. They had a gravity bong they brought down to the protest with them there the last day as well. It was a class act, in fairness, but it was really cool, like hitting the gravity bong. The water, just moments here. We need a compilation. One smelly pirate hooker. That's a username, man. That's a serious username. One smelly pirate hooker. No thanks on the genetic modification, nanotech possibly. Going on holidays is just a carrot on the end of the stick. The Cove vax is different from all the other vaxes. I would agree with you there as well. I think they've fucking redefined what a vaccination actually is. To suit the purposes of this. I see it as a gene therapy currently is what they're doing here with this vaccine. It's a form of gene therapy. But that's just my opinion. One smelly pirate hooker also saying, check out the experiments on contagion done in 1935. It was never proven. Interesting there on that one. I don't know enough about it, so I will have to have a look into it to see what you're on about. Hype TCK says, do they deliver north? Tried puffing stuff because Amazon put declarations from UK now, but needed an area address for them. I don't know. That's one for the guys to answer. Actually, yeah, I suppose that's an issue there with the UK now because of Brexit with posting between borders. Obviously with the import duty and shit, the horse. Other comments coming in. Russell Banta, I just want my Martin's merch. Get yourself a hat, man. Yeah, we'll definitely get some more merch available for you. If you check out Martin's World, that fucking funny ones and stuff like that as well. Imagine printing hundreds of your slogans on a t-shirt and the look on their face as they read them. 420. And Podge there saying, oh, that's a brilliant game to share with our Martin. Yeah, nice one, Podge. Yeah, apparently my brother recommended it. So, yeah, my brother wouldn't steer me wrong anyway. So, yeah, nice one. John Finnegan also saying, go on here, even feckin' Jamaican Woodbine making me not put words in sentences. Gravity bongs are class and I'd love one in the future. Go on, Podge. Try it out. It seems quite easy to make anyway. The lads just used it by making a big 5-litre bottle, cutting off the top and putting a smaller bottle inside and that and lifting it as the water drawed as the suction drawed the smoke in. It was cool. Not a bother at all. We'll have to arrange that some evening. We'll have to do a get together or something like that and have a bit of a hangout. would you all go to get a BCE behavioural clinical examination? Don't think so, man. A Podge, aka waterfall bong, great crack. And isn't that just a bucket? A gravity bucket or a gravity bong? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you could use a bucket, like, but yeah, essentially it's gravity that does it, isn't it? Like, yeah. But I think you might be thinking of the other one that like was a Seth Rogen had that they rotated the yolk. Like the bong had like a fucking rotating thing. The water was at the end. You rotated it so the water was at the top. It poured through, and as the water was pouring through, it was sucking in, drawn off of the bowl. Maybe that's the one you're thinking of. That's an expensive piece of kit. You can make the domestic version, the DIY version at home yourself with an old fucking Lucasade bottle or whatever. Red lemonade. Ah, ah. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. All right, hype TCK. You thought you were. I was on about that hourglass contraption that Seth Rogen had. Yeah, yeah. He was showcasing that there not too long ago. Yeah, no. Just a simple bong that uses gravity to draw in the smoke. Like when you stick like if I have this bottle here, if I cut the bottom off it, and if I stuck that into another bottle of water and let the water come up inside of it, well, when I lift that out of the water, the gravity effectively causes suction inside in the bottle where the water wants to leave. The water that was in it, as I lift it up, now wants to leave. And then that draws in air through this. So that's how you would make a simple DIY at home gravity bong. You could use a bottle as small as this, but you have to be able to put something on top then that can handle the heat of the bowl as it draws in, because it will generate a lot of heat, because it does kind of create a nice draw on it, a strong draw, which can create a lot of heat, which could melt your plastic if you are using a plastic bottle. Be wide of that one, guys. um, I know I was joking about the censorship, but holy shit, the lag, I'm beginning to believe my own jokes. Imagine the After Dark stream out and they'd boot you. Yeah, apologies, guys. Look, I'm going to sign off on that one. And Russell Banta says, I'll be getting my first bong in 2 weeks. Exciting stuff. When we meet up next, I'll have to get your tips. Not a bother at all, Russell. Gladly give you any tips you need. And has anyone ever seen the vid of the crow smoking a bucket, in Russia? No, I haven't actually. I'm gonna have to look that one up, or you might message it to me later. Um, but guys, I will sign off there. WRT Gunner says I'm back and traffic was a nightmare. I'm just about to sign off, Gunnar, but nice one to everybody for tuning in to today's episode of 420 News. It's an absolute pleasure to be able to bring it to you. I'll be back again on Monday, guys, with more 420 News. So have an amazing weekend. Keep keep it blazed and no, stay blazed and keep her lit. Jeez, man. Yeah, stay blazed, guys. Keep it lit. Much love. Peace.